Superintendent Mrs. Linda Thomas will present. So I'll introduce you to Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. We do want to talk about several budget items, the budget, our tax rate, and some federal funds. So we have this slide that we're going to go over. This is our budget by function. Actually, our budget of total revenue. As you can see, our total revenues is $35.3 billion.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I think just for the microphone, just so that the recording is good. Sorry about that. There we go.
Thank you. That's good. Okay, so this is our total revenue budget. Our total revenue budget for the year is $35.3 million. About 21% of that comes from local property taxes, some investment income, and some gate receipts. The majority of our funds come from the state, about $25.5 million, which is about 72%. We also get some federal revenues that we do budget into our local funds, about $1.6 million. And this year we budgeted a little bit of our fund balance for some projects. So again, our total budget for the year is about $35.3 million. This is our budget by function. We do want to show the community that we earmark most of our dollars into the instructional classroom. About $17.7 million, which is a little over 50% of the budget, goes into the classroom. Another 6.2%, $2.2 million goes into school leadership, and that's the campus administration. Another big chunk of our budget goes into our maintenance. It is costly to maintain our buildings. About 15.4% of our budget goes towards maintenance, and that pays for the maintenance of buildings, the utility costs for our buildings as well. Again, the entire budget is $35.3 million that we do budget. I have another slide there. I think I went too fast. Okay. I was missing a slide there on the budget by object code. What I wanted to show is that we spend about 72% of our budget in payroll. So most of our, almost 3/4 of our budget goes into personnel. This is our tax rate over the past 5 years, and the proposed tax rate for this year. In 2019, our total tax rate was $1.25.43%, and that $1.25.43 per $100 worth of taxable value. As you can see, the proposed budget for this year is going to be about 95.08 cents. That's almost a reduction of about 30 cents over the past 6 years in property tax reduction. And a lot of that has to do with the state compression that requires us to reduce our tax rate based on our property values. And this is a graph of our property values over the past 6 years. As you can see, in 2018-19, the yellow line is our property values. We're about $400 million of property values. In 23-24, we're going to be about almost close to $700 million in property values. And this is a result of the appraisal, the Cameron County Appraisal District. They appraise our values, and it has gone up, especially this past year, went up considerably over 20%. This graph also shows the reduction of our taxes over the years. Again, in 18-19, we're $1.29.9. This year, we're going to be proposed of about 95.83 cents per $100 valuation. If you all have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Wanted to talk a little bit about this slide. I hope you can see it there. This is the impact of school property taxes from the new state legislation. So in this three scenarios: a $75,000 home, a $125,000 home, and a $200,000 home. In the first scenario there, a $75,000 home in 22-23 with a homestead exemption of $40,000. The taxable value for that home was $35,000, and again, it's 22-23. Our tax rate, was $1.12.9489, and the taxes for that home in 22-23 was $395.32. This year in 23-24, that same home value at $75,000 with a new homestead exemption, and this homestead exemption is going to go to the voters in November. The voters have to approve that increase in homestead exemption, and we're pretty sure it's going to pass. I think everybody's going to want to have the additional tax rate. So this is taking that into assumption that it is going to pass. So that $75,000 home, now the taxable value is really at zero, it's a negative $25,000. So there's no taxes due on that $75,000 home. So that individual taxpayer, homeowner, would save $395.32 this year on their school tax bill. In 22-23, at $125,000 home, same scenario, $40,000 exemption. Their taxable value was $85,000. At our tax rate, that we had last year, $12.9, the taxes for that individual was $960.07. In 23-24, $125,000 home with the $100,000 homestead exemption, the taxable value for that home is now $25,000. With our reduced tax rate of 95.883, the taxes due on that home is now $239.71. So that individual tax payer would save $720.36. So we take the next example is a little bit more expensive home, $200,000, $40,000 homestead exemption. Their taxable value in 2022-2023 was $160,000. Their taxes, school district taxes, was $1,807. This year, same $200,000 home with a $100,000 exemption, their taxable value is now only $100,000. With a reduced tax rate, their taxes is now going to be $958.35. That homeowner is going to realize a savings of about $848.35 this year. And again, this is the impact from the new state legislation, and then having us compress our tax rate even lower, plus the additional homestead exemption, which is a big savings to the homeowner and the taxpayer. This doesn't take into consideration any increase in value that the appraisal district might have increased the value of your home, because that happens as well. Your home might have been worth $100,000 last year, but due to an increase in value, this year is going to be worth $125,000. So that every home is different, so this does not take that into consideration.
Can you talk about, sir, for a homestead, how it will only go up?
Yeah, so your homestead, your taxable values are capped at 10% per year. So even though if your homestead increased, values increased, 50%, it's only going to, in taxable values, it's only going to increase 10%. And that's a cap that has been set there by law for at least the past 6 or 7 years. So it's going to be 10 cents, 10% this year. Next year's going to increase another 10%, up till you get to that 50%. So it's not all the 50% tax you can do in 1 year. It's it's over the next 5 years. Good point. Any questions on that? I think that's very beneficial, again, for the homeowners, that they're going to see some tax savings this year. This is the next slide is a comparison of our enrollment versus our ADA. We do want to show the community where we've been, pre-COVID certainly, and then after COVID. So, and this is over the past 10 years. And so, if you look at 2018, 19, a little bit before COVID, our enrollment was 3,320. Our ADA was a little bit over 3,000, 3,073. Our attendance rate was about 96%. 1920, it went up to about 98%. Then COVID hit, the following year. So our enrollment has come down. Our average daily attendance has come down, and our average daily attendance rate has also come down. You can see where it dipped down in 21-22 to about 91.73%. This past year in 22-23, we're about 92.9%. We're projecting to be about 93, hopefully get a little bit better as we move forward this year. And this plays a big part in our funding from the state, because our funding is based on average daily attendance, not enrollment, but it's the time that the kids spend in the classroom. That's how we get funded. So the higher the rate, the more funding we get, and certainly the more instruction the students get when they're present. One kind of show the community as well, our teacher to staff ratio over the past years. You can see in 2012-13, our enrollment was 3,700, 3,710. We had a total of 241 teachers. Our student to teacher ratio was 15.4. All staff, we have 549 staff. Our student to staff ratio was 6.8 students per staff. As you can see, the trend there, enrollment has decreased, our total teachers have decreased, and all staff has decreased as well. So we've been adjusting our staffing as we reduce enrollment. And it's certainly something that we need to continue to monitor. This other slide is, besides the first slide that I showed you about the $35.3 million, we do get some additional federal and state grants, and this is a list of the grants that we do currently have. We have Title I, $1.2 million that we get, and that's to provide for the low economic students that we have. We get some migrant funds, $180,000, some IDEA formula special education dollars, federal dollars with $556,000. We haven't received the final entitlement there, that's why there's an asterisk there. As you can see, the other grants that we have, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do want to point out, the 21st Century After School Program, which is a brand new grant this year that we're getting, and we get about $1.1 million for that grant annually, and it's a 5-year grant, and that's a huge impact to the community that we're able to provide after-school programming for our students with this grant. Again, the ARPS 3 grant, this is the overall amount that we received, $11.9 million. We're on the final year of that grant, but in total, again, $17.9 million in additional monies that we do get through these federal and state grants. This is the grant awards of the there's been 3 rounds of ESSER, Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. The first one that we received was back into, right after COVID. It was at one point, almost $1.4 million. We have spent that one. ESSER 2, which was, also, back in 2021. We finalized spending all those funds at $5.3 million this past year. The ESSER 3 is at $11.9 million. And we have approximately, about $2.5 million of those grants left to spend this year, and we'll be spending those dollars as well. This is some of the uses of the ESSER 2 funds. We did provide some retention stipends, for our staff over the years, the last, a couple of years, and we used ESSER 2, I believe, for that stipend. We had some, HVAC equipment that we replaced, which we can certainly, use these funds for that. And then again, we spent those, this 22-23, we finished spending those. These are the ESSER 3 funds. We have purchased, done some playground upgrades at some campuses. Did some, purchased some school buses. Also did some HVAC, air conditioning improvements with these grants, and we're going to do another retention stipend for our staff, with these grants this last year. Again, we have about, a little bit of $2.8 million. We do have some staff that is being quoted to that grant, and this is the final year of that grant as well. And again, as I mentioned before, on the stipends and incentives, the school board and the superintendent felt it's important to retain our staff, so we have provided a retention stipend for our staff over the past 2 years, and we're going to do it again this year, to the tune of about $5.6 million over the 3 years. And again, it's important to keep and retain our staff that are certainly much needed for this school district. This is the last slide that I have, and wanted to let the community know about our financial accountability. So every year, every school district is graded by the state, through this, School Financial Accountability Rating System in Texas, and it's known as FIRST, the School Financial Integrity Reporting System. So for the past 4 years, the district has received an A, a superior rating, and this, system has been in place for this is the 21st year. So, we have improved our score. We went from 92 last year to 94. Certainly, the business office and their staff, they've done a great job in being, keeping our financial books in place and having good audits. So certainly, we want to thank them for doing a great job. Again, we received a superior rating this year on the financial. That's all for the finance and tax part. Any questions for anyone? Great, thanks.
Good evening, parents, community members, and staff. Today we're going to talk a little bit about safety and some of the things that we're doing here in the district to just increase awareness. When we talk about Safety Day, administration, we decided we wanted to do something different, incorporate a lot of things on the Safety Day. Safety, we wanted to talk about the fire drills, the emergency standard response program, drug awareness and prevention, and we even brought in some school safety, school bus safety, and also child abuse awareness. So this Safety Day that we thought of is going to look like all campuses through the district would focus on the same objectives, the same time, and the day. It would be a designated time. And we already had one, and I'll talk to you about what we did on the first Safety Day. All grade levels, everybody's going to stop what they're doing, and we're going to just talk about the certain topics for that month, from pre-K to 12, and we just modify and we accommodate to that grade level. And we incorporate a lot of activities on that Safety Day. So on those Safety Days, we're going to talk about drill requirements. We already had a fire drill, evacuation drill, and it was last 2 weeks ago, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we had our first Safety Day and incorporated our first evacuation drill. And the teachers went over their classroom campus maps to figure out where they were going to go and taught the students where they had to exit if there was an emergency. We do have these requirements: the secure drill, the lockdown drill, 2 per school year, the evacuation drill, shelter in place for hazmat, shelter for severe weather drill, and of course 4 evacuation drills. So we've already done 1 fire evacuation drill. We did the evacuation drill. We had pre-K students singing songs to high school students looking at the classroom map and knowing where they had to exit. We do have one scheduled again for September, and we will be talking to administrators about what other objectives we want. We did not only work on fire drill, we also did the standard response protocols. One of the key objectives of the standard response protocols is knowing what to do. We all need to speak the same language, from every student in the classroom to the teachers, to the administration, to the community. We reviewed, and we also taught some students what each symbol meant when it came to the emergency. So this is our goal, making sure that when there is a crisis, should there ever be a crisis, that we're all speaking that same language and we understand what to do. Let me go back to the standard response protocols from little kids, from pre-K 4, 3-year-olds watching cartoons, videos on the standard, having them understand what a hold was, a secure lockdown, evacuated shelter was, to students, high school students watching appropriate videos on the standard response protocols and what to do in case they were ever in a situation. What we want to incorporate in this coming month is drug awareness and prevention. And what we want to do is just to positively influence our students' values and attitudes and skills so that we can have them make healthier decisions about alcohol and drugs. We want to present to them prevention strategies for all grade levels, and also to just have them know, increase awareness, knowledge of any harms that the drugs and alcohol do. And also we want to increase awareness of substance abuse within the community. We want them to know what's out there in the community so they can be alert. Bus safety. Our goals for bus safety is that they stay both safe, both in and around school, at the bus stop, around the bus, getting off and on the bus, and of course behavior on the bus. So we'll be incorporating some bus safety techniques on Safety Day. Any questions on Safety Day? Those are our objectives for Safety Day. We want everyone to stop what they're doing on a designated time and just focus on the objectives that we have in place for that month. The next thing that the school district we have is Raptor. Raptor, and I'm sure some of you all have heard, it's a visitor management system. And what it does, it's a database. So when we have visitors come in and into our campuses, they will have a background check, not a background check, an ID check. As in, they will present their driver's license and they'll get a check to see if there's anything that comes out. So this is the visitor management system, but it's also an emergency management system. And the emergency management system is where our staff are trained on Raptor, and where they will know that if there is an emergency, they can easily alert the emergency services. So I wanted to show a video. We have some parents here. Hopefully it'll take. Of what Raptor is all about.
School safety software is purpose-built to protect every child, every school, every day. Raptor Emergency Management gives schools the ability to initiate and maintain visibility during drills, active incidents, and reunification events. To help them prepare for, respond to thousands of schools nationwide, Raptor Technologies' school safety software is purpose-built to protect every child, every school, every day. Raptor Emergency Management gives schools the ability to initiate and maintain visibility during drills, active incidents, and reunification events. To help them prepare for, respond to, and recover from any emergency. Drill Manager empowers you to build muscle memory by practicing drills. Analyze performance to improve your protocols. Ensure compliance with state.
Okay. Technical difficulties. It's not showing. So Raptor, remember when you hear about the Raptor, it's the visitor check-in system. We now have a system in place. Not that we didn't have before, but we do have one now that now verifies, looks at closely and screens parents, visitors, everybody that walks into the campus that will have to do some business there with, I'm sorry, I just lost my track of thought. And then also, Raptor is going to be used for the emergency program system. So whenever, again, like whenever there is an emergency, we can notify immediately our emergency services. The next thing is School Messenger. School Messenger is how we communicate with our parents. Yes, we communicate through our website, our social media, but we also send messages out. And it is very important that all our parents are up to date with this messaging system. We will be working with our parents and making sure that they click yes when we send them messages, so that they can always get the messages that are being sent to at home, sent to from school. And we will be working with them. We're going to be sending out flyers to parents as well, letting them know, like, hey, click on, because sometimes we don't get the messages. There's messages sent out that our parents may not be receiving in a timely manner. This is very crucial because when if there is ever an emergency, how will they be notified? And this is why we want all our parents to have some kind of messaging app on their phone.
I want to share a little bit about that, if I could, real quick. Today, and many of you may have heard on the news or may have heard through social media that some of the schools around the valley had threats, and nothing was, found out to be an actual threat. But know that our protocol in the Feria. So the moment that we heard other schools had threats, what we do is we contact the local chief of police in the Feria. We communicate together to make sure, have you heard anything in the city? I haven't received anything in the district, so this, with back and forth, he makes some calls me back, so we ensure that there is no threat to our students and to our staff and to our campuses. So that was the situation today. We do communicate back and forth. We did get on the phone, on the radios with all of our principals and shared that information with them so that if any parent called, they could communicate that as well. But as Ms. Ramos did mention, if at any time we did have a situation that we had to investigate, then the way that we would contact parents and let them know is through school messenger. So that is a very important communication tool, as she mentioned. So if you're not getting school messenger announcements, please contact your campus so that you can make sure that you get those messages. But know that even if the threat is not in the Feria ISD, that is something that we follow up on to make sure that our students and staff on our campuses are safe.
This safety day and safety strategies that we have in place is going to be an ongoing thing throughout the school year. And as every time we do an event or a drill, we always are going to assess. So our administrators meet and they figure out what needs to be strengthened so that we can always improve at the next event. Just today, I worked with food services and we went over more in detail about the standard response protocols. I gave them examples. We talked about what to do if a situation should arise in a different, should a situation arise. So we're always assessing and we're always trying to incorporate all these safety procedures that we need to in place for our students, our staff. Do you have any questions on this?
A lot of information in a short amount of time, and so we wanted to make sure we provide this information. You may not have questions right now, but later on you may think of something that you want to ask. Feel free to call central office at 956-797-8300 if you have any questions at all about any of the finance that we discussed or any of the safety protocols, and we will get back with you. We also have a contact us on our website that you can email us through contact us if you have any questions, and we can also get back to you there. Any questions from the individuals in attendance today? Again, thank you so much for your attendance tonight. We will have, we usually have about 3 town halls throughout the year. The next one is about mid-year, and then we have one at the end of the year. So we have them in different locations, sometimes here, sometimes at the high school, but we will notify you of the next one. Thank you so much for your attendance, and please help yourself to some refreshments and popcorn and sandwiches before you leave. Thank you.